Reading from 1 Corinthians, for the message about the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world did not know God through wisdom, God decided through the foolishness of our proclamation to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs and Greeks desire wisdom, but we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those who are the called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. For God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. First, I have an announcement to make that both St. John Lutheran Church Windfall, Cardington, and St. Paul's Lutheran Church Waldo has suspended in-person worship through Friday, May 1st. At this time, we continue to find ways to stay connected as church, to adapt, and continuing to carry out the ministry and mission God has called us to. That includes loving and serving our neighbor, which is why we're not gathering for in-person worship, not just for our safety, but for the safety of others. Of course, we continue to pray for our nation and the world as we continue to journey through this pandemic. I share this scripture from 1 Corinthians because today is April Fool's Day, and it speaks of God's foolishness. In the book Life of Pi, which was also made into a movie a few years ago, I remember the main character, Pi, being introduced to Christianity. This story of God sending God's son to die sounded so foolish to him at first, but he would later accept this concept of Christianity based on love being at the center of the message through the cross. So he could wrap his head around that eventually. If we were raised in the faith, it might not sound so foolish. But there have been people raised in the faith that walk away because they think it's ridiculous. There are people outside the faith that look at this and, what is with the cross, the crucifixes? How is this about God's love? And how does God save the world and make right this separation between God and man, God and humanity due to human sin? In each generation, we believe we're too smart for our own good, right? And by no means is this a call to be anti-intellectual. I believe education, studying, not just the scriptures, but other disciplines, enriches life. It isn't knowledge or wisdom that gets us into trouble. It's our pride that gets us into trouble, because once we lack humility, once we think we have it all figured out, then watch out, because we become fools very quick. We become our own stumbling blocks because we can't see that truth that's right in front of us once we think we got it all figured out. Now, why would a Messiah sent to save God's people have victory in being crucified? Why would God in the flesh die? That doesn't sound like the Messiah that was expected or the gods one hears about elsewhere. All-powerful, almighty. How does an all-powerful, almighty God die, right? But as we enter Holy Week, and I know it saddens us that we can't be in worship in person together, but because of the material that's shared, by churches on the internet now, we have an opportunity, if you haven't taken that opportunity before, even as a practicing Christian, to see how the story unfolds throughout Holy Week. Not jumping just from Christmas to Easter or Palm Sunday to Easter, but to spend some time to hear what seems to be a foolish story. Hear the greatest story ever told unfold here in its climax, because this isn't a foolish story. It's God's love story to us. May God be with you this day. God bless.